What's a sex fact that most people don't know? I read a post here years ago with a lot of people, a lot of women, saying that they can't have an orgasm if they are cold. So quite a lot of them wear socks during, which improves their comfort, and therefore their ability to reach orgasm. I forgot all about it until I read this post, but as someone who does tend to get cold, I might try that. If you stick it in the butt and pull out too fast, it can create a vacuum. What happens next is pretty shit. Cold water helps clean up sperm better than warm or hot water. Sex can help with period cramps. Also, uterus cramps, similar to period cramps, are normal after orgasms and can be painful. Vaginal wetness during arousal is primarily from blood plasma. Arousal fluid occurs when the body senses sexual desire or attraction. During this process, there is increased blood flow to the genitals, including the vaginal walls, which causes fluid to pass through them. This makes the tissues wet and provides lubrication. Just because there is something you thought is your fetish doesn't mean you'll actually like doing them in practice. Some things just better stay as fantasies. Sex toys are sold as novelty items, that way they don't have to be tested to make sure they are safe for use. There is a reason a guy can get over arousal in 10 to 15 minutes, but a woman needs 30 to 40 minutes to get back to normal. A whole operation gets started if you get a lady aroused, not just the nipples hardening. Guys get that too, but the entire birth canal stretches inward as the uterus pulls itself upward into the body, to accommodate long objects, tampon, penis, finger, baby. It is called tenting, THX/U/digital chimera. Coincidentally, this is also the reason men with a medium-sized penis think they are big when they have sex with their lady without any foreplay and their tip hits the cervix. It's not because you are long, it's because you didn't warm her up and her uterus hadn't moved up yet. Unaroused, the vagina is 2 to 4 inches deep, aroused it goes to 4 to 8 inches. Orgasms help clear nasal congestion. If you are in the midst of allergies, the flu, or even COVID, rubbing one out can grant some temporary relief. Anglerfishes procreate by having the tinier males latch onto the giant females permanently, and then the males wither away until all that's left are the testicles pumping sperms into the female. Brazil nut can be sexually transmitted. If you are allergic to Brazil nuts and have sex with somebody who just ate some, you might have an allergic reaction. To date, Brazil nuts are the only food allergen known to be sexually transmitted like any other STD. Ejaculation in males typically happens at a speed of around 28 miles, 45 kilometers, per hour. Condoms kept in wallets for over a month are more likely to break. Virginia made a law July 1st where you have to prove your age to view pornography, so some sites like Pornhub chose not to verify people's ages and are now no longer accessible in Virginia. This has resulted in Virginia now leading the nation in Google searches for VPNs. The record for the most sexual partners in a 24-HR period is 919 men. Tight pelvic floor muscles can cause burning/stinging feelings during attempts at penetration. If orgasms cause you to become constipated afterwards or have very thin ribbon-like stools, this can be due to changes in the pelvic floor muscles as well. If bowel stuff is a concern for you, experiment with getting a squatty potty and try to breathe like you're blowing up a balloon while you're pooping, i.e. breathing slowly through pursed lips, while trying not to strain or force your poop out. The pelvic floor likes to be relaxed. Smiley face. P.S. Both men and women have pelvic floor muscles. P.S. Again, if you think you have tight pelvic floor muscles, you should probably be assessed by a professional before doing routines involving Kegels. You don't want to make tight/weak muscles even tighter. If they're tight or strained or spasming, you want to relax them first. It's like, theoretically, trying to work out your arms and lift crazy weights when you've already had your bicep muscles constantly, as in without pause, flexed/activated/squeezed for days or weeks. Those muscles would be strained and weakened from continuous activation, and you'd be more likely to hurt yourself by adding further angry muscle exertion. Instead, you want to help those muscles stay relaxed and healthy before you try to work them out and make them stronger again. What's the craziest thing you've overheard on a plane? The lady beside me told me that she was farting a lot, and she didn't care about telling me because she wouldn't see me again. A 5-year-old boy once said, "Dad, can you ask them to pull over so I can go to the toilet?" Haha. There was this kid was behind me that kept telling her dad she lost her tooth and the dad was disgruntledly trying to find it, and some guy nearby said, "Hey kid, I hear if you lose your tooth on a plane, the tooth fairy gives you $50, to which the dad replied, "Hey look sweetie, the tooth fairy decided to sit next to us on the plane. Everyone is boarded and the plane is in the middle of the taxi when a kid about 10 seats up and on the left side, I was on right side, starts crying and screaming at the top of his lungs, I need to poop and I'm going to poop, over and over again until the seat belt signs came off. I've never seen so many worried faces and the look of panic as the mother picked up the kid and bolted to the toilet. I am a pilot for a major airline. Decades ago I was running for a deadhead flight home and managed to snag the last seat. A mother and young daughter were seated next to me. Halfway through the flight the mother, seeing my disheveled look after flying all day, asked if I wanted her daughter's PB&J sandwich that she wasn't going to eat. I politely declined, but she insisted. That was the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich I'd ever had. Not that crazy as such, but when literally about to touch down, a lady got up and started walking urgently towards the bathroom. The cabin crew immediately started saying, "Madam, we're about to land. You have to sit down." The lady responded by screaming in a panic, "I am gonna shit meself." They allowed her to continue. I was sitting next to a father with his small child. The child wouldn't stop hopping around, until the father said, "Sit still and be a good boy or the plane will crash because of you and we will end up dying." Never seen a kid so quiet before. On a charter flight from Goa to the UK. "He's taking ecstasy, and he has a knife in his bag," said an old couple to the stewardess, referring to me. I said, "I don't have a knife, I'm taking Valium. I just want to go to sleep." Stewardess believed me and moved the couple. Way too late for anyone to see this, and it wasn't so much overheard as said to me. I was flying alone and this little girl, maybe 5, wandered down the aisle and said hello. I asked where her parents were and she said they died and a police officer was flying with her to take her to her aunt. My brain was not able to conjure any response at all apart from air. Sorry. She asked if she could look out my window, so I moved over to the aisle seat and let her, me continuously looking for a cop that she might be traveling with. She then told me how her parents were driving back from a party last week and their car got pushed off the road by a truck into a tree. She was quietly crying while telling me this story. Suddenly I hear, "Oh, there you are," from the aisle. There's a woman standing there. The girl says hello mommy and leaves with her. Pilot accidentally left the intercom switch on. The whole plane heard him say, "Oh oh oh. That's weird." Nothing else. Plane took off amid varying levels of anxiety throughout the cabin. I'm here to tell the tale today, so thankfully it wasn't too weird. I sat in front of a kid, 12 to 13, and his older sister, who I assume was his guardian. It was a cross-country flight, and the kid was casually talking about how he had never flown before and he is looking forward to it. He seemed likely on the spectrum a bit. It is pretty wholesome so far. Then the plane starts to move and he instantly freaks all the way out, screaming, "We are all going to fucking die. Let me off this plane, it's a fucking coffin, you're all going to die. It's going to be a fucking fireball," etc. The stewardess comes by and tries to calm him down. The sister is talking to him in English and Spanish, trying to get him to relax, telling him he is embarrassing her, she's never taking him to Puerto Rico if he keeps acting like this, etc. The guy in front of me turns around and loudly offers the kid Xanax. Finally, the hero of the story, a big southern black lady says, "James, not his name, honey, I'm gonna need you to calm down sweetie, cause you're making all the rest of us real nervous now, okay?" Eventually, and for no noticeable reason, the kid relaxes and starts talking about how cool flying is. Like a switch, he starts looking out the window, saying things like, "Wow! The view is really cool. I feel safe now, everything is okay after all." Audible collective sigh of relief. Where was his sister flying him to? Astronaut camp. I think about him every time I fly. A guy coming home early to bust a cheating wife. He was on the phone with a friend/family who told him the other guy was at his house abd they didn't expect him back until the next week. 2 older guys in my row on the way to an academic conference. One of them mentions that the first thing he is doing is attending lecture on some esoteric physics topic, but before he can even finish the name of the topic, guy number 2 says, "Oh, of course, the effects of CO limited tesseracts on quantum membrane string interactions, or some such physics jargon. Are you familiar with the topic?" Guy number 1 gets halfway through saying, "Well actually I," before he is cut off by guy number 2 who says, "Because, you see, most people, even in the field, are woefully undereducated in this particular subject." And then proceeds to talk guy number 1's head off for about 10 minutes. Guy number 1 just nods and smiles patiently through the whole exchange. At the end of his missive, guy number 2 says so, the lecture is being given by Dr. So-and-so, one of the leaders in the field, an absolute legend. Do you know his work? And, of course, guy number 1 puts on a very kind but somewhat sheepish look and says actually, I am Professor So-and-so, your understanding of the field is actually quite good. Guy number 2 turns red as a tomato for a few seconds but seemed to get over it quickly, and they spent the rest of the flight casually talking shop about theoretical physics. I overheard a passenger passionately arguing with their seatmate about the correct way to eat a slice of pizza with chopsticks. Not something I overheard, but something semi-interesting nonetheless. I once went and got sushi with my mom, and I noticed a guy and a girl at another table very clearly on their first date. They were both dressed very nice, lot of awkward laughter. The guy was being ultra gentlemanly, like pulling her chair out for her. You know, just the usual stuff that tips an observer off that they were still very much getting to know each other and wanting to make a good impression. Fast forward 2.5 years. I was boarding a plane in Atlanta, GA, heading to Colorado with my brother to go skiing when I saw the same couple seated near the back of the plane. I was in the row directly in front of them, so when I put my bag up, I turned to them and said, "This is going to be super weird, but did you guys have your first date at insert sushi restaurant?" They both got wide-eyed in shock and laughed and told me that they had in fact had their first date there. I told them I was there that night and just happened to recognize them when I boarded the plane. It was friendly and we chit-chatted for a bit. They were going skiing at the same place we were, so it was cool and all. Day 2 of our trip, my brother and I decide to go to the top of the mountain and take a few of the more advanced slopes down to the bottom. There were maybe a dozen or so people up there, and before taking off we decided to look at the trail map to make sure we were going to get back to where the shuttle could pick us up without having to hike our gear for 2 miles. About 20 feet away from us, a guy got down on one knee and proposed to his girlfriend, and everyone clapped as she jumped up and down with excitement and said yes. They took off their helmets and goggles to kiss, and it was the same freaking couple. I literally was there for their first date, met them for the first time on a plane purely by chance because I was sitting in front of them, and was present when he proposed to her. I assume they're still married because at the rate we're going, I'm probably going to run into them again if one of them decides to file for divorce. Reddit, what outrage over a celebrity was way overblown. Charlie Chaplin was labeled a communist and was told his re-entry to the United States would be subject to investigation into his political views. Charlie just decided never to come back to America. Once the documents became unsealed, it was revealed government officials had nothing on him despite publicly stating they did. Canadian snowboarder who gold in the men's giant slalom event at the 1998 Winter Olympics. The IOC initially stripped him of the medal due to a failed drug test for cannabis use, but overruled by an appeals court 2 days later, resulting in the medal being restored. The dude you're getting Adele guy being a stoner. I mean, duh. I could see that from a mile away. Deleted. Anytime an actress/actor was blacklisted for speaking up about abuse in Hollywood. Turns out Harvey Weinstein is a rapist and covered it up for years. No doubt Feldman and Haim were victims of someone with as much power as he had. The majority of K-pop idols' issues and scandals whatsoever, ex smoking, dating, crying at a friend's funeral, etc. Michael Phelps ripping a bong. Roky Erickson, lead singer of the 13th Floor Elevators, got put in a psych ward for possessing a single joint of marijuana in 1969 Austin, Texas. He was subject to electroshock treatment in these facilities for 4 years. His mental state deteriorated greatly over this time frame. Based on the information that is out there, it's pretty safe to say that this incident drastically lowered his long-term quality of life. He was 22 years old when he was sent to the first facility. Howard Dean's scream. He was giving a talk to motivate his campaign workers. Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction. George Michael being asked by an undercover cop if he wants to see his thing, he said sure. So everyone found out he was gay, and that was a huge no-no. Gay meant pervert back then. Really sad, and he never recovered mentally. Pisses me off. Just wasn't fair. David Bowie saying he was bisexual in an interview. It really ended up hurting his career in the US. Paul Rubens masturbating in a porn theater in 1991. It was a porn theater and there was no reason for it to affect his career. Sinead O'Connor calling out the Catholic Church over the abuse of minors. How dare she? Britney Spears when she had her meltdowns. The woman was bullied and harassed at such an insane level, it would make anyone snap.